Everybody to this webinar from Nrcc, and welcome to our panelists, those here in the studio with me, and definitely Costinela that is joining us in remote. What a topic, sustainability. This is a very trending topic nowadays, but do we actually know what sustainability is, or do we have an idea what sustainability is? Let me start by giving you all a definition, one of the many definitions that we have found on sustainability. One of the definitions says that sustainability means meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So basically, for us to be able to meet our goals, to comply with our needs without putting in danger those from the next generations. Sustainability, as I said, is a very wide topic, but it's also regulated, or is starting to be regulated. And before giving the floor to the companies, we have with us Cristina here, lawyer, specialized in this topic, in sustainability, and maybe Cristina, you can give us some insight on what the law says, because we saw that the discussions and action of sustainability intensify lately, but what triggers nowadays?
First of all, hello to everybody, and I'm very glad to be here and to talk with you about this subject that interests us all. I would say, to answer to your question, starting with the conclusions, I see personally two main factors which trigger the intensification of the discussion and actions, mainly on sustainability nowadays. There is the change in the challenges and the needs of our society in the present, but also the raising of the awareness on this subject. And I shall treat them very rapidly because we don't have many time. Sustainability is not a new subject. If we look back, starting from 1993, there was the World Commission of Environment and Development, okay, which published 4 years later a very interesting report named Our Common Future. This report is known also as the Brundtland Report. And this report, in fact, introduced the concept of the sustainability. And I like very much something I found in this report that says that sustainable development is not a fixed state of harmony, but is rather a process of change. And therefore, this is the main factor that brought the attention on sustainability nowadays, the changes in the challenges. If we look at the challenges we face today, we see the health, the social inequity, the diversity, inclusiveness. So we see a very wide range when we talk about sustainability. So it's not only about the environment, it's also about social and governance. These are the three pillars, how to say, about sustainability. It's about also the human rights, it's about the working condition, it's about the gaps in the salary, the diversity, the gender, and the business in ethics. And as the challenges changed, normally triggered the raising the awareness on this subject. And it is normal if we see and if we look at the factors that influences the sustainability reporting and the sustainability discussion. There are three main factors: politics, society, and business. The most important ones in our lives.
Like in almost everything.
And if we look at the society, we see the ONGs, we see the media, we see the activists, academicians. They all have a very important and very active role in the society nowadays. This triggers pressure on the politics that made the rules, which imposes to us and to the business. And between these three factors is they are very interconnected. So what we see is that a global approach is needed on the sustainability. It is not sufficient the individual answer of each state. We have to coordinate the measures taken on the sustainability all over the world, and in order to be competitive, because if we do it in the European Union, also Asia, also the United States have to align not the same measures, but similar ones in order to keep our competitiveness on the market. So, in this context of global action, we have two more important normative acts, international normative acts nowadays. We have in the United Nations Agenda for Sustainable Development for 2030. It was published in 2015. And we also have the Green Deal, starting from July 2021. And we know all now the Green Deal targets, zero gas emission until 2050, very ambitious one. And
especially for some countries, I would say.
Yes, and economical growth decoupled from the use of the resources. So this is also a challenge. So many challenges for the companies that we shall hear now. So to answer your question once again, two main factors trigger the intensification of the discussion on sustainability: changes of challenges and awareness on the subject for me.
Well, thank you, Cristina, but actually I heard that the initial report was issued in the 80s.
Yes.
So a question to all of you, to our panelists: why is it so important nowadays? Why it became so important nowadays from the personal and from the business point of view, sustainability? Why nowadays? Who wants to start? Anna?
Hi everyone, and it is really a real pleasure to be with you today alongside my colleagues from the other industries. So I will start from a business perspective, and if I were to choose a verbatim a quote that would be relevant, I would say that with great power comes great responsibility. And if we're looking at the challenges that the world faces today, we see challenges in the area of environment, economic and social as well. And we see that these ones are intensifying as we speak. Therefore, it is a context when everybody is looking up to the big companies to be part of the dialogue and as well to come up with a solution. It is clear that nowadays it's not enough anymore to be a profitable business, but as well to do this in a sustainable and responsible way. We at HEINEKEN, because I'm here representing HEINEKEN, at HEINEKEN we have respect for the planet and for our people as one of our values. Therefore, we live by it in what we do on the sustainability agenda.
Brew a better world.
Brew a better world, exactly. So this is from the business perspective, and it is related to what Cristina was mentioning before. Now, from a personal perspective, I strongly believe that we are part of the same ecosystem. So it's not that we have the humans on one side and the planet on the other side. So basically, we are all in the same game. And this is just an illusion, this separation, let's say, as we see sometimes in some other speeches, is just an illusion. They are not separated in reality. Therefore, I will just make an analogy with our homes, right? We keep our homes tidy, clean, everything is in order, we put things in, let's say, in place, right? So that's why it's important to keep the planet as well as our homes, because in fact, the planet is just a bigger home for all of us. And I think it is high time that we take some steps in elevating the topic of sustainability.
For all of us and for our future generations.
Exactly, yeah.
So we are here, Linden.
Yes.
What about FrieslandCampina? Anca, why is so important nowadays?
Indeed, as mentioned by Cristina, first, hello everyone, good to be here. Indeed, as mentioned by Cristina and Anna earlier, it is a complex discussion, and from our industry point of view, we can think about food waste and poverty, but of course, most important, it's about better nutrition that is affordable for everyone. So I think the shock is even bigger when we think about 40% out of the total people living on Earth right now are close to starvation and to poverty, especially in rural areas all over the world. But even more looking into our garden in Romania, we know from studies that 1 out of 10 children go to sleep without having eaten. And they also need to walk to school like 8-10 kilometers every day. So if we as people and as companies do not do anything, the future will be even more unthinkable.
Thank you, Anca. Karel, I'm sorry, as a gentleman, I'm going to let you for the end. And I'm going to ask the same question to Costinela from Rompetrol. Costinela, can you hear us? Why
Yes,
it is so important nowadays from a personal and from the business perspective?
Hello to all our online guests. As the colleagues from the panel said, we are currently facing some challenges globally, extreme weather events, damaging property, infrastructure, and even human life. And we see that on TV, or we read it in the news, or we even feel it. We are also facing great loss of biodiversity and collapse of ecosystems with consequences for the environment and for humanity and for industries. Governments and businesses alike, we have to work together to mitigate and to adapt to climate change. Climate change is a reality. We cannot deny it. We have the goals for a sustainable development that are set in the UN Agenda for 2030, as was mentioned. However, we all need to work hard to adopt the measures to achieve these goals globally. Why is it important nowadays? Because it is about our lives and because it's getting late. And why is it important for people and businesses? Because it's about our ecosystem and about our survival, we as a people and as businesses, in the current context of very complex challenges, as was mentioned.
Thank you, Costinela. Karel, BFG Packaging. Now.
Yeah, hi. Hello to everybody, good afternoon. As some of my colleagues mentioned, yes, the evolution in sustainability is since decades happening. But the question was, why is it now very actual? Well, I think, for instance, this summer we all worldwide feel that climate change is really becoming, you can
an
feel
issue.
it all over the world. All kind of weather events are proving that yes, the evolution might even be quicker than was planned or foreseen. We are in a middle-sized company in a business which lately, since the Second World War, as well is type of symbol of the humanity polluting the world. I mean, packaging is in fact something which is only 80, 90 years old, that we really pack everything. A long time ago, our grandparents went to the shop with a bag or with something to take home what they needed. So it is a typical for the evolution and in the meantime for the problem which becomes very urgent. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's clear that we'll have to do something about, and then in the packaging it is quite specific because yes, you know that there's a directive at this moment of the European Union which is translated in the different laws in the different countries. That's very actual these days happening. They did that by looking on the ocean beach and taking all the products which were there for a long time in the sea and then were polluted. Based on that is now the new law and the ban on all kinds of products, mainly the most important ones which were in that. So yes, I think we have to move. And I believe very much that the Green Deal, which started this summer, and which is for the next 5 to 10 years, changing our world, certainly in packaging, but wider than the packaging, we'll have to move.
So we have to do something.
Yeah.
We have to move. Let's go specifics. And let's continue with you, Karel. What is your company doing in regards to sustainability, targets, goals, achievements?
Yeah. Well,
What are we doing? Because the theory is there. We have to do something.
we are a middle-sized company, which means that we don't have, as it was said earlier, but we don't have departments for all kinds of things. Yeah. So in that situation, it is more the style of the entrepreneur. Yeah, and the belief in that. Specifically for us, as we are in the middle of what is really changing now with new legislations, in fact, we are permanently for today, but even for the mid-long term, because today we take the decisions about investments in 3 years.
Correct.
So we are adapting our decisions, our strategy, our decision, following that line and that concern of sustainability. For instance, 2 years ago, we took a new decision, and we have been thinking, but we didn't have time to look to alternative electricity.
Okay.
But then we come to other aspects of the discussion, that is, yeah, then we should have time to do that, and it shouldn't be too complex. Well, in that case, we did find out it was too complex, so we didn't dare to do it. But yes, that is how at least a middle-sized company, different to some bigger ones, as my colleagues here, concerns, where they can develop very specific.
Correct. And Costinela, what about Rompetrol? What is Rompetrol doing nowadays in regards to sustainability? Which targets, which actions, goals are you putting in place?
Thank you for the question. Well, the challenges of our industry as fuel producers keep us very focused on sustainability because we need to adapt to this changing world, because we need to make our business sustainable on the long run, and to be able to serve our clients also in the next 20 years or more. So we consider all the European Commission communication on Green Deal and Fit for 55 package, as well as the market specificities of our countries of operations. We incorporate feedback from consumers and stakeholders alike. We do work currently on making the best decarbonizing strategy that we can have for our business, and set targets for each of the business streams, refinery, retail, supply chain, and so on. At the same time, we do have a history of consistent investments in our operations and in Romania, and not only, and we do focus on future investment plans that have sustainability at the core of everything. And to give you some examples, we voluntarily certified for international sustainability and carbon certification since 2017, which is the proof that we as fuel producers use biocomponents which can be translated into low emissions of CO2 for car users. And we did that well before the EU directive was translated into legislation in Romania. At the refinery level, because we do have two refinery units in Romania, Petromedia being the most modern, we do have investments amounting hundreds of millions of dollars to reduce all types of emissions from CO2 to sulfurum, NOxes, and so on. And we comply with the legislation and are in line with the best practices, and have obtained all the integrated environmental authorization for the production units. And to give an example of a project that is in progress to be completed in 2 years from now on, is the cogeneration plant from Petromedia platform. This is an investment of $148 million. It has an important role both for the business but also for the community, because it has a major role in stabilizing the production and distribution of electricity in the entire Dobroja region. So we ensure the energy needs for the platform, but also we inject the surplus electricity in the national system. And this is a very relevant example of a sustainable project for Romania, not only for us as a business and for our consumers.
Well, this is fantastic because actually I think one way or another energy is always kind of in the center of this sustainability discussion, and especially here in Romania when this energy is so important. Anca, FrieslandCampina, what are you doing as a company?
Well, in a nutshell, our aim is to have a positive impact on society and on our planet. It all derives from our mission, that is to nourish the world growing population with better, affordable nutrition, produced in balance with nature, and realizing a better living for our farmers for now and for generations to come. So as such, we have developed 6 main areas of focus. Of course, better nutrition, affordable for everyone. Better living for farmers. As many of you may know, Royal FrieslandCampina is a cooperative of 17,000 farmers. And tomorrow, actually, we will celebrate 100 years.
Congratulations.
150 years.
150.
Yes, mulțumim. Thank you. It's a big day for us tomorrow. Another important area is better nature, that we are closely monitoring how to improve biodiversity. Better climate, because we aim to have a carbon neutral future. Better sourcing, that means 100% responsible sourcing, and better packaging. We aim to have 100% recyclable, reusable packaging. In Romania, we have 3 main pillars, which are better nutrition, better sourcing, which is local sourcing, and better packaging. And we are lucky to have Napolact, our main brand in FrieslandCampina, Romania, who has started this journey many years ago, because our brand promise is that it is produced with milk from the heart of Ardeal, which means local sourcing.
Good milk.
Yes, indeed, it is very tasty. And so it's local sourcing and better nourishing, because we have clean recipes and we are continuously improving them. Regarding the packaging, we will soon launch, and this is the first saying it here.
So this is
a breaking news.
Breaking news. Okay.
Yes, we will soon launch fully recyclable PET that will provide for more than half of our PET portfolio full recyclability, and this is only this year alone. That
sounds fantastic.
And of course, we will have to focus then on communicating and educating, because this is one.
This is important, to educate.
Yes.
To educate. And what about Heineken? Because Heineken, I don't know how many thousands of millions of liters of water, I guess, is the key in the beer production. What is Heineken Romania doing in order to be more sustainable?
Thank you so much for the question. And I will start by saying that we have a sustainability strategy for more than a decade now. This is a global strategy, and of course it is translated in all the OpCos. It is named, as you said in the beginning,
Brew a Better World.
It's nice that you know our strategy. The name of our strategy is named Brew a Better World. And it has been refreshed this year with some strong commitments. The strategy is quite simple, and I will try just to have the summary of it. We have, depending on what we see now in the world, we see the challenges I said in the beginning. We have challenges related to the environment, challenges related to the social, economic, and so on. So we have the strategy split in 3. The first pillar is environmental sustainability, and the ambition is to lead us to zero impact in this area. And we can talk about commitments, quite ambitious commitments, such as net zero emissions in production by 2030, as well to have a positive impact of our businesses in the water stress areas, right? Because there are some water stress areas, so they have issues with the water in those areas. Zero waste to landfill by 2025. So this is the environmental pillar. The second one, of course, again, super important, is related to the social sustainability. And we are aiming to have a more inclusive, equitable, and fair workplace for our employees, but also for the society in general. And here we have the inclusion and diversity agenda. We know that inclusion and diversity is a very hot topic, if I can say like that, for everyone.
We are very inclusive here, eh?
Yes. I was looking at us.
We are very inclusive, and the parity is well kept.
Quite balanced. Just an example of one of the commitments is to have 30% of females in the leadership positions by 2030, and to have 40% of females in leadership positions by 2040. So it's quite a clear agenda that we are having in place. Also, in Romania, Heineken operates in 4 communities, in Miercurea Ciuc, Târgu Mureș, in Constanța and Craiova, and of course, this is the home of our breweries, where we have most of our employees, so it's important to have also a positive impact in the communities that we operate in. And the last pillar, so we have environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and also responsible consumption.
That is more difficult.
Again, important, as you can imagine, and maybe we have the chance to go into details a bit later. We, Heineken, have a mixed portfolio. We have alcoholic products, but also non-alcoholic products, at quite a wide range of those ones. And the ambition here is to lead in moderation and also no harmful use of alcohol. We have different partnerships for awareness on moderation, fighting against harmful use of alcohol, the wide portfolio of the products we are having, as well as awareness campaigns for some of our brands, talking about why moderation is good and cool at the same time. So these are the 3 pillars: environment, social, and responsible consumption, quite structured, and this is the strategy that we have now in place. We have some achievements from the past, and we are looking at these commitments and how to deliver the plans here in Romania to drive the agenda. So we are making sure that we will meet this super ambitious commitment that Heineken has at global level.
Correct. I think moderation should be, I think, in the center of our lives, in everything, not only in drinking.
Also eating.
Eating and many other things. If we will be a bit more moderated, they probably will be better. But we are seeing that actually all our companies here in Nrcc, in Romania, they are very sustainable. Then, Costinela, what it is so difficult of being sustainable? Because I'm hearing you all, and all of your companies have plans, have steps, have goals, are putting plans in place and pillars. And so what is so difficult of being sustainable?
There are several layers here in this question. The first one is education. We all need to get educated on this topic, all equally, and understand that sustainability is a collective effort from us as companies to consumers, to the society at large, and regulatory authorities alike. Secondly, the national legislative frameworks should be somehow at the same pace with the European Commission directives, because countries have different timelines, different approaches when they translate into legislation the European decisions. consumers in general, because we are all focusing on our consumers, they expect companies to be sustainable. And we as consumers expect those around us to be sustainable. And we see it from various studies that the consumers tend to favor sustainable companies. They take the purchase decision based on these kind of aspects. At the same time, consumers benefit from the sustainability of companies. And when I say that, I can give some examples that we, Rompetrol, already offer. For instance, fast charging points for electric cars, or quality fuels with low emissions, which are translated into fast driving or clean engines and so on, up to fresh and local products in our gastro area, because we do focus on supporting local producers and on buying locally.
Karel, Costinela mentioned about solved. Costinela, I was saying, Costinela mentioned about the legislation and the legislative framework of Romania and to be aligned with the European legislation. But how legislation changed the behavior of a company or of a consumer in regards to sustainability? How the legislation affects the behavior?
Let me first state that I believe that for the main changes, yes, evolution of mentality, social and whatever the wider definition of sustainability, but really looking to the real changes, the practical changes in behavior of the consumers, I think indeed legislation will be needed. Because again, the consumer is always looking for the most comfortable solution in things, and maybe the easier ones and the cheaper ones.
But sorry to interrupt you here, Karel, if you allow me. Legislation is needed, but we just heard from Cristina that there is legislation. Or what it is just a kind of main road of what it is requested, or...
Okay, but I can testify that beside of some more global and general rules in legislation, I remember 3 years ago in the business I am in Europe, nobody had the idea that there might be for the use of our products, the packaging of takeaway food, that there were real valuable alternatives. But they still, in Brussels, they took the decision in 2.5 years, done. And, well, all the countries had to make the local legislation, but now what we can see is indeed things are changing now. Again, this week, literally in Romania, that type of products with hamburger boxes and menu boxes stops. There's some stocks which will be sold out, but that is, and if you look, that is, nobody did expect that we would have alternatives. We have now alternative products. The decision was taken indeed 2.5 years ago, and nowadays we have them, the alternative products which are not polluting or less polluting and whatever.
So basically, once they force us, is when we react. Otherwise, if it works, better not to touch it.
Let me put it this way, because in the Green Deal, the next 3 years, 4 years, till 25, there are all kind of steps still planned. And I think, yes, if as all of us, first the consumers, we search the easiest way, then we'll need rules and legislation to change our behavior. And that is, for the industry, well, that is the moment you change your plans and you can be difficult, but then you change your plans for in 2, 3, 4 years, because that's the time and investment takes to realize.
I think
That
every change in a way is a challenge. It's difficult, but if it is for the better, I think it's worth. But having a lawyer with us here, anything to add about legislation?
Yes, I have something to add. Hearing Karel saying, answering this question, indeed, legislation change behaviors, but I look it the other way mainly. It is the need of the people who trigger the legislation. It was always like this. So when we face some issues, some patterns, we, the society, and indirectly imposes the legislation, the need of the legislation, and the legislator then take the action according to what is needed for the society. This is the normal kind for me to look at the legislation as a lawyer. Is a little bit the vice versa, not the legislation imposed on people. I wouldn't like to be in a state imposing the legislation, okay, on the people.
We went through
but
that.
it's more. I rather look at it in a different perspective.
In a more constructive, probably.
Even more constructive, and indeed.
And reasonable, I would say.
When we have some issue, when the society, as I said before, the activists, the academics, the ONGs, etc., media, put them on the table, the politicians and the regulatory bodies have to act, okay? And now in what forms?
That is
for
another, them to decide.
Yes, then it's another for them to decide, and for us to criticize is the case may be.
Exactly. Every 4 years we have elections, so we have.
Okay.
But are we, Anca? Are we Romanians? And I'm saying myself Romanian after 13 years in Romanian. I feel myself half Romanian, half Spanish. But are we Romanians ready for this? Do we accept this concept of sustainability? Are there opportunities for us to be sustainable?
This is not a one-size-fits-all kind of topic. I think we can see some big gaps between a rural area and urban area, as I was telling earlier. And even though there are many programs dedicated to people living in the cities, this is not the same for rural. So they are not as informed and exposed as city people.
So can we say, and sorry for interrupting you, can we say that there are two Romanians?
Yes.
To actually two perception of sustainability depending where you live.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
And we can add a different layer also. We can think about the split between people who have already started to live a sustainable life, which usually implies they have financial means. There is also a big amount of people that would like to start but do not have the information, they don't know how to do it, which means NGOs did not reach them with information, resources. And there are also the third type of people who unfortunately have to think about present, about what they will eat today and next day, and could not care right now for what would happen in decades. So I think that a person needs to have the basic needs satisfied first before going to thinking sustainable. The good part is we can see an evolution, and from my industry I can give you the example of the farmers that turned from conventional to ecological milk. That is meant for them to develop a sustainable business model and to look to the future. So they now have the knowledge, they could share it. So it's a matter of putting things in practice.
We are starting. But one thing trigger, and I'm going to ask you the same question. They have the financial means, meaning that if you are not so fortunate, it's difficult to be sustainable. Are we ready in Romania to be sustainable?
It is one of the best questions related to sustainability, and I think that Costinela, also Cristina and Anca touched upon it very well. So just to build on their points, I would say that, as Costinela was mentioning before, we have lots of studies saying that Romanians want to be sustainable. And this is a desirable, if you want, kind of behavior, right? But the question is if Romanians really feel inside, if this is a belief, if this is something they believe in, or it is something that is imposed by the fact that we all talk about sustainability, all the companies, legislation, etc., etc. Because in my view, what comes from the inside, it is really strong and would drive the relevant behavior compared to something that comes from the outside. That's one perspective. The other perspective is related to different meanings of sustainability. So there is, in my view, this kind of shape without a clear content inside, right? And the idea would be, what do we communicate in a very accessible language, as Anca was mentioning before, because in order to reach larger audiences, we need to communicate in an accessible language so people understand what is sustainability and what it means from different industries and how they can contribute in order to embrace it. So I think these are the nuances on sustainability, but for sure, if we want to drive behaviors, this won't change overnight. And it is rather sooner than later, it would be rather sooner than later better to start to communicate and to educate and for people to understand sustainability than just wait.
Correct. But I'm coming back to Anca because you mentioned this. Whenever they touch our pocket, we get nervous. So from a consumer point of view, will this directly affect financially the consumer, this sustainability process? In a more simple ways, are we going to see a raise in something? Is it going to affect us financially?
Yes, definitely we are going to feel it in our pockets, but it may seem like, and it is an investment right now, but on the long run, the positive impact will be felt. I can give you an example in our own household. For instance, if you decide to change the electric bulbs to economical ones, that would mean taking out some money right now, but on the long run, one would pay much less for electricity. Savings. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So this is, it could be the same for the solar panels, for water recycling, and so on.
But then we go to, sorry to interrupt you, to Karel's point, we need legislation.
Well, yes, because, again, going to our business, and later on it will come for the dairy products as well, what you said. I can be very concrete. The change this week is happening when you take a restaurant owner who was last week giving you a polystyrene foam hamburger box, and next week will give an alternative which is not banned, which is better, for more sustainable. The price of that is double. So at least in the supply chain, from us till the consumer, then the step before, for them it is an expense. Yeah?
Correct.
And I think similar phenomena we'll see all over. That's the reason I'm saying, yes, it is. Of course, we can think about education, we can think about communication, we can tell stories to make people responsible, but certainly the people who don't have too much money to spend, yes, there will be a reflex. And that is the reason that I'm saying, well, we will need for all these things. Another point is, if I believe and my company makes a better product, more sustainable product, but my colleague in, I don't know, Germany is not, well, and it is a price difference of double, well, who will buy then the more expensive one? There might be some very idealist people who do, but And that's the reason that I'm saying the legislation in that change will be will have to regulate it in order to make that the industry is adapting.
Makes sense. And so, Anca, you were saying indeed that it will affect us financially, but actually it will be more an investment for
the future.
For the future,
Yeah.
Definitely.
for some savings for us and for a better world.
Indeed.
Sounds promising. But are we ready to do that? That is the question. So, Anna,
Oh, again.
I'm coming back to you. As a brewer, you mentioned about responsible consumption, and you mentioned that it is in the agenda. Why are you so involved in this regard? Shouldn't it be me, the one deciding whether I want to have a, let's say, normal consumption or a more responsible consumption, rather than, in your case, Heineken, telling me how to consume? Why are you so involved in this? Why is it a pillar for you?
Because it is essential, right? Because as I was saying before, we have a mixed portfolio of products. We put on the market, so we offer experiences. We have alcoholic products and non-alcoholic products. And these non-alcoholic products are in fact 0.0 products. And we have a wide range of 0.0 products. We have Heineken 0.0 as an example, Birra Moretti, different versions of Dragan, and so on. As I said in the beginning, when you have a great power and you're like a big multinational, as we are, you also have the great responsibility to care about the others. So having these products it also comes with the responsibility to educate and for the consumers to consume with moderation. One of the commitments, as I was mentioning before, is leading the path on moderation and also no harmful use of alcohol. This is what we aim for. And now if just going into concrete actions that we are having in Romania as we speak and also moving further, is this mixed portfolio and increasing the percentage of the non-alcoholic products in the whole portfolio of Heineken Romania. Also, we do a lot of sampling, so we are offering as well alternatives of non-alcoholic products to the alcoholic products that we have in our portfolio, so for consumers to taste it and to see that also a 0.0 is a great product to drink. If we're looking at the investments in campaigns, we have brands with percentages, significant percentages of their media budgets invested in educational campaigns, in awareness campaigns on moderation, and I'm just giving the example of Heineken brand. When you drive, never drink, and I think we all have seen some nice TVCs from Heineken. So again, it comes with this responsibility. And not only this, we have a partnership for almost 10 years in Romania with a local NGO that is activating in this field of driving moderation, creating awareness on moderation, and also fighting against harmful use of alcohol. And they are doing a 360 campaign, so they are going to the seaside and doing awareness sessions there, because we know that in the on-season people go and consume products from the whole industry, not only our products.
And quite a lot, I would say.
Quite a lot. Also, they have info line, forum, centers in the hospitals for awareness. They also offer psychological counseling in case there is somebody in the need of a session. And I would like also to mention that we had a national testing day 2 years ago. Any of us could have gone to attend of this NGO and see what is the personal consumption level, so if somebody is at risk or not. And this is a questionnaire that it is developed by the World Health Organization, so something that is internationally approved. Also in 2021, so this year we have done this event for several days online with a huge success, in the sense that people, at least they become aware whether they are at risk or not. So this is just in a nutshell the agenda that we are having, let's say, mostly externally. But we also believe that our employees, our colleagues in all the departments are the first ambassadors of what we do. So they are the first ambassadors of moderation. Therefore, alongside our colleagues in the HR department, we always make sure that we have trainings and storytelling around why moderation is good and
good,
why they are also the ambassadors of selling, of telling the story outside the company. So it's just in a nutshell. I know that I've spoken for 3 minutes now or 5,
No problem.
but just in a nutshell, what we are
It's
doing.
important to understand why a big multinational like Heineken can be is involved also in the actually responsible consumption of their products.
And if I may add something else, it's not only us Heineken, but also
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
industry.
I guess every industry in their own fields.
Yes, at the industry level, the Brewers Association, that we are all party.
But at the same time, I guess it's more important for a brand like Heineken, the moderation, rather than to eat, to
Yes.
drink a lot of milk. I don't see the problem there compared with the beer. But anyways, let me open a parenthesis here and remind the audience that if you have any questions, you can please write it down in the Zoom application. And Veronica from Nrcc is taking care of them, so at the end we will answer as many as we can. We have heard that the companies here, as we were saying, are very sustainable or are doing a lot of efforts to become sustainable. We have heard that the European Union has put the first rules and the different reports and agendas, 2030, 2050, zero emissions, and so on, that we have felt some climate changes lately that is actually worrying us a bit more. So let's say that it is in our mood to be sustainable, or we are realizing that we have to be sustainable more and more. But Anca, I'm asking to you, pardon, Costinela, sorry Anca.
No problem.
Costinela, is it affordable to be sustainable? Is it something that we companies can afford? And I'm talking in general. Maybe big multinational is much easier than others, but overall, is it affordable being sustainable?
It's a very good question. And I would say that lack of sustainability is expensive. And I would draw here a comparison with the education process each individual undertakes from age 6 until 22, let's say. You go to school, you do your homework, you pass exams, you have to buy school supplies and invest in extra activities, and finally education pays back. You have a good job and you can afford what you desire. The same with sustainability at the business level. It is a long road of years and efforts and investments. And finally, it pays back for all. For the company, it is translated into satisfied employees, satisfied customers and shareholders, as well as profit, competitiveness in the market. For the state, for instance, taxes to the national budget, investments in communities through CSR. For consumers, they get quality products that satisfy their needs, up to offering your clients sustainability living through the experience they have with you as a brand. And just as no education keeps you, unfortunately, at the bottom of the society, no sustainability takes you out of the market, you as a company. So I would say that it should be affordable, and it should be affordable for all that have a vision about the future and for all that target competitiveness and being as long as possible in the market.
So actually, it is not, the point is, or the question shouldn't be, is it affordable? But it is a must to do it. It is how affordable it is, because actually we are supposed to do it if we want to be in the marketplace. Otherwise, eventually our consumers will select a sustainable company. Is that what you're saying, basically? Costinela.
Yes, exactly. Being sustainable keeps companies on the market, and the stakeholders will appreciate that, starting from your employees and from your customers, because we see that the interest in sustainability of a company is not something we as employees of the company care about only, but also regulatory authorities, our partners as banks or the stock exchange, if the company is listed, to local authorities, and so on. They all care about the sustainability of a company because it's an ecosystem. We are all part of it. So if you want to be on the market, be competitive, deliver value added to everyone, sustainability should be at the core of everything. You don't have another choice. So your plan A in your strategy is sustainability.
And you also mentioned education. I think this is a key pillar, but for everything in life, to have a better society. But indeed, definitely for sustainability, education is a must. And one way of being sustainable probably is encouraging circular economy. I think that is one of the ways in which we can improve. We can reduce, in a way, waste and consumption. But which are the challenges of encouraging, Karel, circular economy?
Let's take care that we don't think about too easily a circular economy. Circular economy, is simply said, it is that any material we have used should not go in the waste, in the garbage, but should somewhere be reused. Maybe not in the same function, but in at least the raw material should be reused. That sounds very logic, and will have to, because the waste is too much all over the world, and certainly in the Western countries where the consumption is quite high. But let's have a look to the Romanian situation. Yeah, Romania is not the best performing country if you look to the circularity. Mm-hmm. And well, something we see, all of us, is the split collection. For the whole circularity, split collection of waste is crucial. And there is big differences between the different countries now about the what is possible and the practice.
Sorry to interrupt you here. There is European regulation on that, on collection, no? On waste collection.
Well, yeah, but that's in development step by step, and it will be step by step more. Yeah, there is now since 1st January this year, the Romanian state is paying to Brussels the first European tax, and that is on the putting in the market in Romania of plastic products which are made of virgin plastic and not recycled plastic.
So it's a tax or it's a penalty?
It's in fact a tax, because they want, again, by legislation, in fact, to say using virgin material should be punished compared with, or you can put it the other way around, the cost of recycling, because that costs quite money, should be compensated by a tax on the virgin materials. So there's still a discussion politically now in Romania going on, how that will be translated to the consumers in Romania and to the industry in Romania, because yes, at this moment, there is not, and then we come to the split collection, it is a chain, you collect it split, then it goes into streams to the different recycling places, and there a similar product, a familiar product is coming back in the reuse. But that whole chain has to be further developed. It's still only a few 10% or whatever of the total circulation. Money will
In
be the
Romania-
driver.
In Romania or in Europe, this 10%?
In total, I mean, but yes, Romania is not on the top of Europe in this.
Okay.
So there's a lot to be done, and we all see it in our kitchen, where you have and where do you want to drop it? Is that properly, and can they all be collected well and go to the recycling plant?
But one thing that you just mentioned, and it's quite surprising for me, the fact that I, as a company, or as a country, I am allowed to pay a tax and use virgin materials. So therefore, we are recommending, but we are not actually mandate to use recycling materials. So the circular economy is nice to have, but not must to have. Is it correct?
Well, I think circular economy will never be reached 100%. It's all about as much an evolution to go further and further and further in order to use less virgin raw material, new raw material, and to have less waste, because that is a double advantage of the circularity.
Anca, how do we bring sustainability? The theory is there. Yeah, we're gonna do this, but how do bring sustainability live in our companies? Rather than the big projects, how do we bring live? Because basically, I understand, and correct me if I am wrong, a company to be sustainable, all the employees have to embrace this sustainability, this goal, this vision, this mission of the company. How do we bring that alive in our companies?
Exactly. Each of us need to have a smaller environmental footprint. What we do is, since we are a multinational, an international company, we look at the actions developed by our global team and adapt and implement them locally. But more than this, we look here in our own yard to see exactly what people would like to do and how they feel they can contribute. And for this, I will share something very nice with you. A couple of years ago, we initiated an idea contest where we invited each and every colleague that wanted to express himself, herself, to share ideas of how we could be more sustainable on department level, on company level, or even at home. After looking through all these ideas, we have checked the feasibility and then we scaled them and implemented wherever it was possible. So that did have a very good impact on our way of working, on our plastic reduction, on reducing losses, waste management, reducing consumption of water, gas, electricity. These were very palpable results.
Anna, back to you. We understand how important sustainability is in the strategy of Heineken Romania, but which will be the main areas in which, apart from the 3 pillars you just mentioned, which will be the main areas that you want to focus in Romania and Heineken Romania?
It's amazing that you remember the 3 pillars.
Okay.
So I take it as a compliment, so thank you. Indeed, so at some point you touched upon, Javier, you touched upon water. It is clear that water is the essential element in the production of beer. So if we don't have water, it's clear that we don't have beer. And it is also clear that around the world we have water-stressed areas. So it's quite important to have a positive impact as Heineken in those areas. Now, coming back to Romania, it is important that year on year we use water in the most efficient way possible in the production. So we make sure that we decrease the amount of water that we use per 1 hectoliter of beer. That is the first one related to water. Second of all, we, as always in life, it's a game of give and take, right? So we take water and at some point we give water back in the environment. So we make sure that in all the breweries we have water waste treatment plants. This means that the water that we give back to the environment is clean and it doesn't harm the environment. This would be one about water, and I will try to be short, and the other one is about packaging. We have a pillar in our company, sustainable packaging strategy. We know that we are placing packaging in the market. We have different pack types in beer as well as in the other industries as well. We have cans, we have PETs, we have bottles, whether they are one-way or the returnable glass bottles. Last year, we have implemented a nice initiative for the PETs. We have shortened the neck of all the PETs in our portfolio, and also we did a project named lightweighting. So basically the plastic was a bit lighter than what we have previously used. And this was a nice initiative because it brought us like 10% less plastic put in the market compared to what we have done before. So we are looking intensively at water, which is essential for beer, and also packaging. And this is not done only by us Heineken, but also by my colleagues in the same industry. And of course, we have initiatives at the level of the Brewers Association. So yes, these are the hot topics, let's say.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Costinela, what about Rompetrol? How is Rompetrol bringing life the sustainability in the company? Apart from the main project that you just mentioned before, how is it bringing alive so that everybody is on board?
We have two ways of bringing sustainability to life in Rompetrol, and the first one is education and internal communication. For our employees, we hosted trainings and podcasts internally on topics related to sustainability. We also involved students, those who are part of our internship programs or through the partnerships that we have with universities. And we engage internal experts from various functions in sustainability projects, including in the sustainability reporting and in the shaping and reshaping the strategy on sustainability. Secondly, we do it through investments, because you cannot have sustainability without investments. And I can proudly say that we've been pioneers in many of sustainability areas. From reporting to investments in technology and products long before certain aspects became mandatory through legislation. And I will give some examples from retail segment, for instance, as early as 2006. So even before the accession of Romania to the EU, we were the first to implement a series of projects targeting the reduction of volatile organic compounds from the gas stations, meaning from reservoirs and from pumps. At the same time, all the new gas stations that we build consider sustainability practices, from the materials we use to the technology involved in the fuel supply and sale. All our gas stations, for instance, have a LED illuminating system. 100% of our gas stations monitor the groundwater quality as well as environmental indicators. We have solar panels, and as we have in Mogoșoaia gas station, for instance. At the same time, at the level of all gas stations, we have a policy in place, and we target efficient consumption from water to energy, to recycling, of course, up to having more green areas around our fueling points. At the same time, we are committed to large afforestation projects in Prahova mainly, and we do it with our employees, with NGOs, with our partners, and we do so to support our communities, because plantations contribute to the capture of CO2 forests being among the most important CO2 deposits. This approach contributes to three objectives of the UN Agenda for Sustainable Development. An agenda and goals that are part of the strategies that we have, climate action, life on land, partnership for the goals. And not only these, but we also support and incorporated some other goals in our strategy. We do have projects in healthcare and other areas, and we do so together with our colleagues, with the Rompetrol employees in Romania and across the countries where we have the operations, because at the core of each company and of each strategy is the people, and the people should have, you should have the buy-in of your own people when you start your sustainability approach.
A company is made out of people, definitely, and without them and without their involvement, there is no company, no matter how big the brand might be. But Anca, what business value have you seen from the sustainability efforts that FrieslandCampina has been doing in the past year or recently?
Well, it's been abnormal and chaotic past year. So it's difficult to put it in this context, but in general, one company would really need to measure some clear indicators to see that they bring additional value. From what happened in the past with our investments and our projects, for instance, we had great results with our dairy development program dedicated to our farmers. Indeed, in Romania, we do not have farmers members, but we have partners, and they were enlisted in a program run by Dutch people, Dutch farmers, that came into Romania, visited their farms, offered some solutions to some of their problems, or simply just given some advices on how to breed the cows, how to feed them, how to increase productivity, and how basically to lead a more sustainable business. And this program took place for 2 years in a row. Unfortunately, we had to suspend it during the pandemics, but we are looking forward to restart it. And here we could see direct results, because those farmers that were part of the program had an improved profitability, improved productivity, which can be seen in numbers. On the other hand, indeed, it means investment in the beginning, because you have to invest in R&D to develop packaging more environmentally friendly or circular or reusable, and this takes time and money for sure for a producer. But it is important also for the retailer, for our customer, because they are much open to cooperate with the producer who is already doing steps in a sustainability direction. So because also it's high on their agenda as well. And last but not least, as Costinela was saying earlier, it is very important for our employees, for our colleagues, and it's a matter of pride. It's also valid for customers, for consumers. A recent study of PricewaterhouseCoopers showed that more than 80% of consumers and employees are more likely to buy from or to work from a company that shares the same values on sustainability as they are. So somehow we notice that quality is no longer the only important thing about the brand. When it comes to respect or trust, it's more important what sustainability values that the brand brings as well.
Indeed, we said at the beginning, Anca, that at the beginning of this webinar, this conversation actually that we are having, that nowadays sustainability has become very, very important for companies, for consumers. But Cristina, a bit of low touch here. How is the Romanian legislation embracing the European goals?
It embraces the European goals. We are aligned in terms of legislation. Here I shall be a little bit more technical than before because we have some normative acts entered into force these days, and I just want to talk a little bit about them because I think it's of interest for our audience and for all of us. I shall refer just to two normative acts. To the Single-Use Plastic Directive, which is implemented in Romania by the Ordinance 6 from 30 August, so it's very new. And we have many obligations in terms of the single-use plastic. The objective is clear, is to prevent and reduce the impact of the plastic in the nature, especially in the aquatic environment. I shall pass in review shortly the main obligations in our ordinance because I think and I hope it's of interest. We have the obligation of the consumption reduction. We have targets there. We have to reduce the single-use plastic products for certain products, which are mentioned in the appendix to the ordinance, up to 5% to 2023 and to 20% for 2026.
These are goals of Romanian legislation?
Romanian legislation, European legislation. This is an obligation according to the law.
Okay.
So to progressively reduce the quantities placed by an entity on the market for certain products. I repeat, these are expressly provided by the ordinance. In order to do this and to achieve these targets, there shall be on these entities which put on the market such products, there will be a series of obligation to declare to the AFME the quantities put on the market, the obligation to report to the central authorities, ANPM and the Ministry of Economy, the measure adopted by them in order to achieve the goal, the consumption,
the reduction,
the targets mentioned above, okay? And they also have the obligation to inform the consumer about the alternative reusable they have and to receive a price for selling the single-use plastic products if they are selling and if they do not have alternatives for those products. So there are a series of obligations, and also we shall have a national electronic registry we shall be put in place in the next 12 months normally by the AFME, the authority, the environment, the regulatory body. Okay, where we shall have registered all the entities which have alternative for these plastic products, and other entities also. I do not enter into detail because it's not the case, but I just wanted to mention. Another obligation, important one, is the restriction on placing on the market, which is in force starting with August now, 30 August. So
this past 30 of August.
Yes, this past 30 August. So we have restriction to place on the market certain products, which are also mentioned expressly in an appendix to the ordinance. And I refer here to the cotton bud sticks, cutlery, plates, straws, etc. We have product requirements, obligation related to certain requirements on certain products. This is starting from July 2024, this obligation, because it implies many investment for the producers. And the change of the production lines even, I don't know, because the beverage containers with a capacity up to 3 liters that have caps and lids from plastic, they shall have, starting with this date, be attached to the bottle. We do not have to open and throw away. It will be attached, like for the baby's bottle, you know. Okay. So this is an obligation starting with July 2024. And also for the PET bottles from 2025, they have to contain at least 25% recycled plastic. And for 2030, 30% recycled plastic. plastic. This is the product requirements obligation in our ordinance. We have also marking requirements for another type of products mentioned in the appendix. We have to inform the consumer about the appropriate waste management disposal. Okay? And about
We have to, companies have to inform.
Companies have to inform for certain products which are mentioned expressly on the ordinance. We have to inform them about also about the plastic content of the product and the consequences thereof. Another obligation from this ordinance is extended producer responsibility. We know the concept already. And we have to comply until January 2023 or December 2024, depending on the product. And these companies which produce or put on the market the products listed in the appendix shall have to establish this extended producer responsibility up to these days. They shall have to cover some costs depending on the product. I do not enter into detail, but it's important to know. And for a legal point of view, it is also important to know that this concept is spreaded in at least 3 legislative acts. So when we are talking about this extended responsibility of the producer, we have to look at and corroborate all 3 acts. We have this ordinance for the plastic, we have for the waste packaging another law, and we have the frame law, the environment law, which is the general frame for this kind of responsibility. And last but not least, we have the separate collection, and we have targets also for the separate collection, and this separate collection obligation may be achieved in many ways, but also by establishing a deposit return scheme. What we are talking about, the CGR, okay? And we have a project of a government decision which is still in discussion. But what we know for sure that we have to apply it starting with April 2022. So we have a little bit of time at the disposal, but the decision of the government is on discussion, and we have to keep an eye on that. Just one normative act at the international level I want to mention, because I think it is important, is the Euratom Council decision. Euratom Council decision was adopted in December 2020, and it is implemented into Romania starting from May this year. And it says there that the states have to recycle 100% of the plastic. If we do not recycle as a state, the state 100%, for the difference, the state has to pay to the European Union a tax, 0.8 euro per kilo, with certain exception or lump sum for certain states, Romania included. But this, I think, we shall find the consequences on the actors of the market. So keep an eye on this new legislation.
It's going to be quite interesting, I would say, yes. Karel?
There are many other normative acts important, but I choose only these 2 to talk about today because I thought it is important. And just to conclude a little bit, I would say that for the sustainability issues, we have to think like, I hope we already think, for the data protection. In the GDPR regulation, we have a concept, data protection by design. So anytime we have a product in mind, we have to necessarily have in mind also how to protect data. It's exactly the same with sustainability. Whenever we have a development project, we have to think about sustainability and how we shall integrate the sustainability issues on our development project.
Indeed, sustainability, it has to be on our day-to-day agenda.
Yes, yes.
And what I'm seeing actually is that the regulatory framework in Romania is quite complex and wide.
Yes,
And
it aligned with the European ones
it
that I
is
was
very
talking
much
about.
aligned what we are seeing in amounts, in targets, both in volumes and in dates. And I've been told that actually the questions that we are receiving are being answered as we speak. So we have 15 minutes until we close today's webinar. So I am going to ask you all, panelists, two things. One question, if you want to answer, and your conclusion, your final words. The question will be very trendy also today, pandemic. How this pandemic has affected your sustainability plans in your company, if in any way. And after our conversation, after our talk today, your final words that you want to translate to the audience. Anna, we start with you.
The first question or the second question?
Both of them.
Both of them, okay. So I'm the lucky winner.
You are the lucky winner. You start with the question and then your final conclusion if you want.
Wonderful. I think that this pandemic showed us that change is indeed the constant in the lives of everyone, right? And it came with a test. And I think the pandemic tested our ability to change, our capacity to adapt to new realities and to reinvent ourselves, and also our empathy. If I'm looking at Heineken Romania, for sure we prioritize the health and safety of our employees, and we were looking at the communities internally and externally. So we have done a lot of things for our employees internally and for the great spirit of the Heineken company inside the company. Programs such as Heineken for Education is one of the programs that we have done. And we have donated through our foundation. We have donated laptops for our employees' children, because we know that school moved online and it was a totally new context for everybody. So this was quite an engagement program that we have done. Also, we changed a bit the approach in communication, in the sense that having a different paradigm. We asked our colleagues to show us the human face behind the screens. And we have seen lots of funny photos from the virtual offices of our colleagues, including chicken, the gardens behind the house, the neighbors, the children, and so on. So I think this was a very good context for everybody to be vulnerable and to show the human face that sometimes in the office, maybe in the past we didn't do it so much. And when we're talking about communities, we have 4 communities in Romania, as said before, and we have offered support. We have donated PPEs, medical equipment to the hospitals in the 4 communities, which quite a big investment, 1.5 million RON. For all these donations, and also to the Red Cross, because we thought that it is really important to help where there was a need for it.
Congratulations on that.
Yes, thank you. That was the first one, and the second...
Your conclusions, if any, after this hour and a half plus that we have been talking together.
Yeah, so looking at all of us, because we represent different industries, quite different from each other, I think it is a very good dialogue, and I also believe that we should do it more often, in the sense of putting more stakeholders from different parts of the society all together and talk about sustainability, and let's see how we can unite forces so we are stronger in driving this agenda for Romania and of course for
Europe and the world.
Yes. Yes,
because at the end of the day, we should be all in the same boat. We are all in the same boat, I would say.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Anca, if you want to mention anything in regards to how the pandemic affected in any way, or your final conclusion, up to you.
I noticed a lot of similarities with what Anna just mentioned earlier. And I'm glad to see that somehow we big companies had the same reaction to get strong together, not to let us feel the loneliness while being apart, but also to try to help those in need. What happened for FrieslandCampina is that, of course, we had to put aside our plans of gathering people, either internal meetings or events for consumers. But on what we did was to donate dairy products for hospitals, for quarantine centers, for doctors, because they were the ones in the front line when fighting with this unknown disease at that time. But also as also Anna was mentioning, we tried to take all the cautious we could to protect our people, our own employees, because of course, not all of them could work from home. The majority of them had to come to work every day, put their health at risk and their families' health at risk, and just to make sure that we deliver the good dairy to Romanians so they would be healthier to fight against these pandemics. So a big thank you to my colleagues from the front line, from production, sales, distribution, that were there for us, everyone else.
Indeed, I'm going to interrupt you here before your conclusion, because this is one thing that we consumer might not realize. When we were stuck at home, that we were allowed only to go out to supermarkets, and we still saw the products there. They didn't appear by miracle. I mean, they were, as you said, the front line there, that they were still producing for us, that they were still delivering for us, that they were still preparing things, packaging things. We had petrol in the gas station, we had dairy products, we had beers, definitely. I think it was important during the pandemic. So to all of them, I would say from my side as a consumer here, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, because it was really important. Indeed. Coming back to you, your conclusion.
Sustainability is huge. It has so many angles, and it depends on where you want to start from. It may look overwhelming, but I think even if any of us, as a regular person, as employee, as us as companies, start doing anything, it would be like a drop in the ocean, but a lot of drops will gather together, and we all know the force of water when it is together. So
every drop counts.
Indeed.
Perfect. Karel, you bear with me. Let's go to the lady first. Costinela, anything that you would like to mention in regards to how the pandemic might have affected, or your final conclusion, your final words?
I will be short on both. The pandemic has shown us how resilient we are, and tested our ability to change. And what we have learned in the past 2 years is the power of partnerships, and this is what it's needed to be kept. Some industries have been severely affected. Other industries like ours had to continue the business as usual. We even had the refinery turnaround during the pandemic without incidents. And that is because Rompetrol is an important pillar for the energy security of Romania. We also focused on HEC matters and on our communities. Most of the budget was directed to support the health system and medical personnel in fighting the pandemic, in financing the research. And secondly, and I'm very proud of that, is that we managed to keep all the partnerships in place, including those that we had with the creative industries. And to give an example, we are the main partners of the International Georgianescu Festival and Contest that takes place this month in Bucharest and other cities across Romania. So this is the biggest gain for us, learning to be resilient and believe in partnerships and solidarity, to stay together with all stakeholders, because only together the road ahead is easier, or the drive ahead is easier, as we like to say it. And a final word about sustainability. sustainability is about our everyday life, is not only about businesses or governments. And education should be a constant for us as individuals and for us as companies.
Thank you very much, Costinela and Karel. Before giving you the final words, you're going to close this. We just received one last question that I would like, actually it was not answered during our talk, so I think it's fair to answer to that. The question was, education was mentioned several times. Is any of the invited companies doing something to educate the young generation on sustainability and circularity? Because shaping a responsible behavior is easier at a younger age than changing old mentality and behavior. This is a question from the audience.
Yes.
Is any of the big companies doing something in education to educate the behavior of the next generations?
As for FrieslandCampina, I can say, sorry if I jumped in.
Please, please.
I was telling you earlier that we are planning a big launch and an educational campaign, and it also includes this particular part. How we should recycle a PET bottle. What are the steps? What do we need to do? And it is meant for all audiences, of course, not only for young ones, but it will also be on all available channels like online and offline to make sure that as many consumers as possible will reach the message. And there are also our partnerships we have with NGOs. Some of them are not very big and are doing small initiatives, but they are helping the respective community, the respective schools or children that are part of the program. So indeed, they are taught how to recycle or all kind of events, do-it-yourself type with the recycled PET or other type of packagings. So there are plans and we are doing things.
What about Heineken, Anna?
If I were to add something to Anca's answer, I would say that indeed in Heineken we do internal engagement campaigns around sustainability, and these are addressed to our employees. But of course, there are also the ambassadors, and they bring the messages home to their families, I would say. So that is one. Second, we have in plan to run in our communities such educational campaigns, and I think the question is great, and thank you for asking this one. So we will have some campaigns in the communities. And third, I think it is also an opportunity looking now around the table that we have so many industries, and we can think across industries of some initiatives in the same communities. Thinking of Heineken as an example and FrieslandCampina, I'm sure that, Anca, we have some shared communities.
I'm sure that the more united.
Yes. And we can do something together, because as I said before, uniting forces is stronger than having only one industry in that field of communication.
As the audience asks for the big companies, I have to ask Costinela if Rompetrol is in any way involved in educating young generations. Costinela?
Yes, sure. And thank you for the question. Circular economy, to me personally, is a very dear topic. I'm very much interested in that. Internally, we do have podcasts and all sorts of communication addressed to employees. We also have our interns and partnership with universities, and we work with students on numerous topics, including this circular economy issue. Our interns that have just joined the internship program now have a pillar of their development, which is called Community Challenge. And within this Community Challenge, they have to come with sustainable ideas or ideas related to circular economies and how can they be implemented within the company or within the communities. And also internally, we do have a platform, a generation idea platform that is called Innogate, where we welcome ideas on all sorts of topics, but the core to be related to sustainability and circular economy. We analyze the topics, the ideas. We allocate budget if they are feasible to be implemented, and yes, the short answer is yes. We consider circular economy in everything we do, equally with the sustainability, because at the end of the day, circular economy can be a pillar of sustainability.
Thank you very much, Costinela. We just received one more question. So, Cristina and Karel, please bear with me. It says, at Constanța Maritime University, we are preparing an educational and research project on assessing the role of the sustainable supply chain for building sustainable cities. UN SDG 11. I understand this is the UN directive. And this person, Cristina Dragomir, I think it is asking, how can we reach possible partners? Well, I think in the University of Constanța, the Constanța Maritime University, preparing a research and educational program and project, looking for some partners, maybe through, and I'm here jumping, maybe through Nrcc, maybe they can, if you could maybe translate exactly the needs and the request to Nrcc, and Nrcc might, in a way, share it with the companies involved and the big companies that we have in the association. And definitely, if anyone is interested and it could fit in the projects, sustainability projects and research that they are doing, these companies, I think they will be more than happy participating. And I think through Nrcc will be the easiest way to make it available to all the members. I hope I have answered the question. If not, please write something quickly in the chat so that we can develop more, Cristina. So, coming back to our Cristina. Your final conclusion, Cristina.
Final conclusion.
And or if...
Final conclusion.
Okay,
it's okay.
Final conclusion.
For the companies, and not only for the companies, for people also, consumers, be resilient, keep an eye on the legislation, existing one, the one that shall come, and prepare yourself before it becomes mandatory. It would be better.
Prepare yourself because it is coming mandatory.
Yes.
It is coming. And because we are very sustainable, and the parity is important, and here we are very sustainable. You ladies started, so we men, we finish. Karel, did the pandemic affect in any way?
Well, maybe we experienced two interesting effects of the pandemic, which people might not expect just like that. One is that in general, all over Europe, the pandemic did create much more
awareness?
Ordering of food
Okay.
from outside to home and takeaway, which means that our industry all over Europe since 1.5 years is fully booked. We produce whatever we can. That's an interesting one, which means that yes, at our company as well, the working people could not stay at home or whatever they have. Yeah, we had to hire all kind of people just to. The second experience is that, and that's quite subtle, because we are introducing nowadays, we did an investment of replacing product, and that is what in Asia exists in sugarcane. Sugarcane as base raw material for packaging.
Sugarcane?
Sugarcane, the fibers.
Yes.
That is a technique which we don't know in Europe till now, but yes, you can find that products, but it came from Asia. Mm-hmm. We were 2.5 years ago when it came, we went to China and we did buy in China machines. They are now in Romania and we will be the first one. Remarkable is that psychologically all over the place you can find that the consumers, the people, have more than it was before the pandemic, the reflex buy local. I mean, the whole pandemic has been put on the agenda. It is not good for masks, for all kind of things, but even the toys coming from China and whatever. So yes, indeed, you see now that there might be a tendency, yeah, that people will be more sensible for the point buy local, Romanian or European or whatever. But that is typically and we are happy with that because we came down with an alternative which was only produced in China and now will be in Romania for the first in Europe.
So the production chain is coming back to the local market.
What happened 25 years ago that it went to Asia.
Everything went to Asia, now it's coming back.
It's clear that there is now a movement in the other direction, yes.
Which is good for the economies of our country.
Which is good for our economy, for sure.
And your final words on the topic, sustainability, catalyst of business performance?
As said, sustainability is so wide, is so general, and yes, there is a lot to be done and will be done, and it is yet starting to happen. Yeah.
Definitely, and I will keep those words. It's a lot to be done, and not only to be said, but actually to be done. And this is where all of us, our guest speakers, our companies, and us, we as consumers, we have to start doing. It's a lot to be done, and sustainability is here, came to stay. It's not a trendy thing that is going to pass in a couple of years. No, sustainability is here because it's actually not only our future, it's the future of our sons, daughters, and future generations. So we need to be sustainable, and as it was mentioned, it's a very wide term. It's not only about recycling or plastics or energy or water or packaging. It's much more than that. Being sustainable is making sure that the future generation will find a world better than the one we found. And with these words, I would like to thank Cristina. Let me see if I pronounce it correctly. Bojica?
Yes.
Perfect.
Very nice, thank you.
Sometimes my Romanian is not that good, which is associate lawyer or Gruia and Dufaut law firm. Anca Roman, corporate affairs and communication manager, FrieslandCampina. Anna Crivat, head of corporate affairs, HEINEKEN Romania. Costinela Dragan, that has been joining us remotely, strategic communication and sustainability manager at Rompetrol. Thank you, Costinela. And last but definitely not least, Karel Hoet, president of BFG Packaging. To all of you, thank you very much. To our audience, thank you for being there, for listening to us.